participate in fun activities. With competitive pay and available shifts during the day, evenings, weekends, and overnight, Chrysalis is flexible and can work with your schedule. More information and the online application are available at chrysalis.care. That's chrysalis.care.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's main event.
Where's the Friday?
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious...
So, another Friday is upon us.
WTF, I'm Rob Birdsey. Welcome to my Friday show. We got you can see us on YouTube. It's at Widowed, Trio, and Freedom. So Widowed, I'm a widowed dad. Trio, I have 2 little boys. And Freedom, I'm doing this so maybe we can all get a bit of freedom out of this. Maybe it can relieve our minds. Maybe we can have a better understanding. I do interview an array of people, and we talk about doing hard things and how we all get through it. So today's show, I have a very important person, and throughout my journey so far of being here, I basically met Thomas Sorenson, his name is. I met him from the get-go, and I can't believe how much of a remarkable person this guy is. We think we got it hard. I tell you what, mate, this guy from the get-go kicked off life with such an array of a situation that he got put into. So we're going to talk about that. So Thomas, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you coming in. I've been waiting for this one for a little while. You know, we did a little podcast before, and it was just great to touch on some topics. But, man, you have, it's like you fell out of the tree that gives you every disorder possible, and you hit every branch along the way, and now you're here. But you got the best outlook to life. I can't even, you know what I mean? Like, everyone should take their hat off to you and say thank you, because I mean, even with technology, you're just amazing at it. Clearly, you rely on it quite a lot. So let's kick that off and see. Yeah, first of all, what is it called? Because I can't pronounce this word.
Yeah, so the condition is really complicated. It's categorized as a fatty acid oxidation disorder, which doesn't sound like it would be like a major disability, but it's got a lot of stuff attached to it. The condition itself is called LCHAD. That's an acronym for long chain 3-hydroacidyl dehydrogenase disorder. Most people just call it LCHAD, and it's different mutated types.
So how, on the molecular level, how does that affect a human being?
Yeah, so if we want to go right down to the mitochondrial level, essentially what it says is that my body can process long chain fats. You have all these fats that you consume in a day, and they all are all along a different part of the chain. And I'm not a chemist or a biology major or anything, so some of your listeners might know better on the technical side, but essentially my body can't process the long chain fats, which are most of the fats you consume and need for normal functions of your life.
Wow. And this is like from the get-go. As soon as you were born like this.
The funny thing is, fatty acid oxidation disorders have a lot of mutations, right? So you have a bunch of people who might have this condition. When I talked to the specialist for this type of condition, there was about 50 to 100 known cases worldwide, and they're all a little bit different because they all mutate differently. So they have these genetic trackers that they're constantly marking whenever a person is born, and it sort of flags on any person who's born in any hospital usually will get a screening, and it'll tell you if you fall into this category. One of the funny things with this condition itself is there's about 5 or 6 different mutations, which also gives you different symptoms.
Oh,
and
wow.
you talk about hitting every branch on the tree on your way down. For whatever reason, my mutation is unique and doesn't have any matches with any other people who have had the condition. And as just so happens, it has all the symptoms related to all of the mutations combined. So
wow.
It's kind of like a snowflake among snowflakes.
So you really did hit every branch.
Yep, absolutely.
And from the sounds of it, it affects people differently.
Yeah, so for different people, you're going to have different severity of symptoms. So maybe try to to get into the idea of what this condition causes, it causes a different array of problems for the individual, mostly surrounding the breakdown of muscle tissue for the energy needed to operate. So because my body can't break down fats, it'll try to break down any source of protein that it can find in the body, and one of the best sources of protein is the muscle tissue, which in and of itself is pretty painful. A lot of people have tried to describe it, what it feels like to have your muscle tissue break down. It's actually an effect that a lot of our athletes might understand. It's called rhabdomyopathy. So that's usually something that only happens to your highest level of athletes during their, most extraneous exercises. But my body sort of lives in a rhabdo state, and same with anyone who has my condition. But the severity of that rhabdo is different for everybody.
Wow.
Yeah. And then because of the fact that you're not processing fatty acids, you have to break down the muscle tissue, which is actually pretty hard on the rest of your system. So it leads to some kidney issues, definitely some liver issues. There's some nutrients that you need for the function of your eyes, called DHA. And also it has some electrical impact on your cardiac system, so primarily in the heart.
Wow.
So it's a whole mess.
I'll just say this because it's pretty you're a remarkable person, man, and I love your outlook.
Well, thanks,
but the yeah, right. It might affect your body, but clearly it's not affected your brain. You're really smart, hey.
Thanks.
But you're like your recall and everything. Like I don't see every time we've had an interaction, we've always had an intelligent conversation. And actually, I walk away like it. It kind of makes me a little sad because you're an amazing person. People, whether with brains like yourself, they're high up doing major things, and because of the hand that you've been dealt, you kind of, where you're at is phenomenal, don't get me wrong. It just seems like you could have been a brain surgeon, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And definitely there's like the idea of like where is the potential that could have been, right?
Yeah.
But I think also like potential is a little bit of what you make of it. And I think really, because there's going to be limitations of what can or can't be done, you just sort of change your path to be able to put all your effort into one area. So you talk about like, oh man, you could have been like a surgeon or something. I actually had big aspirations to be an athlete, but given that I can't do a lot of tactile things, I decided to go into technology, right?
Yeah.
So I put all my time and my effort and my energy into learning data science and AI and trying to learn the mechanics of programming and things like that to sort of build my own solutions to big problems that I had.
Wow.
So yeah, I think potential a lot of the times is what you make it. And also, it's funny, people talk about recall and stuff. What you'll find is when you start to lose your vision, like I have, you start to really depend on your recall where your environment is. And we do have a couple other friends who are fully visually impaired down to zero visibility here on campus, and they'll also say it's like, yeah, your memory's got to be good. It's if you want to know where you're at and where you're going.
Yeah. No, there's no joke. Let's just. I want to touch back. You said like, what was that muscle tissue breakdown? Like, it sounds like your muscle eats itself for you to survive.
That's actually a great way to put it.
Wow.
So it's called rhabdomyopathy, and typically it's something that's experienced with athletes. You overexert your body, and your body looks for an energy source that's beyond the fuel that you put into it, or just through the muscle strain itself. And it actually will try to break down the muscle tissue, and that has to be processed through your system. Which, like I said before, it's pretty brutal on your kidneys and liver.
So on a scale for an athlete doing it, it sounds like they're mechanically driving that for whatever reason. So maybe they want to lean out more and things.
Yeah. So a lot of the times, your high level athletes have like a staff on board that's going to help take care of them to make sure they don't go into rhabdo. So you might actually see like football players go sit with an IV bag, make sure you're getting enough hydration and sugar, like mostly dextrose, to try and repair the system or make sure that it has the energy where it's not going to be consuming the muscle tissue anymore. And you talk about scales, right? People with this condition have different levels of this rhabdo. There's a guy who's Actually, the oldest living in the world that I've heard of through the research that I participate in. His name is Jai. I hope that maybe someday he can see this. He's the oldest, and I hope he continues to be the oldest. He lives in Australia, but when I met him in Colorado, I told him, I was like, man, you are so lucky, because like your rhabdo can just be treated with ibuprofen, and that's amazing to me, because I've had brutal experience with the rhabdo. And he also can drive, so like whereas my vision loss is pretty severe, he still got his vision, and he never had any cardiac arrests or anything. So he's got like a really sweet mutation where he's got like most of the symptoms, but they're not like in that severe category.
Yeah, they're not detrimental to his everyday life.
And we talked a little bit about like special situations. Actually, researchers that specialize in this area in molecular genetics, they really love me as a research subject, because whatever is going on with my mutation doesn't have a match to any other patients that have lived or passed on. But I also experience all the symptoms. So whenever a new pharmaceutical company wants to test something out, they're like, hey, can you get this guy in? And we want to test it on him and see if it works on his symptoms. So
wow,
it leads to some really cool opportunities for research.
Oh, I'm sure of it, especially being like so diverse and it affects people in different ways. Did they take a long time to work out what your symptoms were? And
Yeah. So there was actually a doctor when I was 6 months old that actually thought I just had a bad fever. And it was actually just by chance that this doctor, Dr. Regala, had attended a seminar in the early 90s, and they had talked about the emergence of this idea of a fatty acid oxidation disorder. And she was only just coming off of this trip when she saw me in her office. And she's like, well, I'm going to take a chance and just see what this could be. And she saved me. She was like, yep, this is it. We found a guy who had done the presentation. She called him up and said, I don't know anything about this. What can we do? And his answer was essentially, I don't know. Let's find out.
Oh,
and
wow.
It worked out really well.
So you basically the crash test dummy for what you're going through.
Yeah, and that's like kind of the experience. It's kind of testing things out over the years. And it's actually led to a higher survival rate, because the survival rate for this condition has usually been right through the teen years. And we can kind of get to like what that sort of entails if you want to. But now, whereas the death sentence usually used to be either like 13 or 14, now, the patients are living into their 20s, and we're doing great.
What's your age now?
34.
34?
Yeah.
Are you the longest surviving so far?
So Jai is a few months older than me.
Okay.
So knock on wood, hopefully he sticks it out.
Okay, I get it now.
And but yeah, so one of the oldest. It's pretty cool.
You're right on the cutting edge of this then.
Yeah.
This is pretty... So, okay, are you still testing for things? Are you still trying new stuff?
Yeah, so there are a couple of really cool specialists. Shout out to Melanie Gillingham and Dr. Carrie Harding up in Oregon. They're crazy intelligent. Talk about like the geniuses of our age. They have so many cool ideas and things that they're working on for just such a small group of people, with the hopes that it'll help a wider spectrum. Like, I actually participated in a test, because one thing you might not expect from this condition is that actually we do not contract type 1 or type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
Even though we have a crazy high sugar diet. And they were fascinated by the idea that none of these kids, even at younger ages, when they might be more susceptible to contracting type 2, they don't get diabetes. So they wanted to run a test. So I participated in a study where they essentially were attempting to see if my cells would become like diabetic with their symptoms.
Yeah.
And they did a 14-hour test, no symptoms.
Wow.
And now they're hoping that through that discovery that they can, sort of develop alternative treatments to diabetes other than just, injecting insulin. So there's some cool opportunities for other people.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, because clearly your body has had to mutate itself to develop these systems so you can survive.
Yep, and
so
for some reason it works.
there's a battle going inside of you, and your body wants to be here. Your brain's phenomenal.
It's like, we could do this.
We could do this. Wow. That's, it just opens up so many questions.
Yeah.
The coming through all of the testing that you've done, has there been some real low moments of you tried something and it's really knocked you on your backside?
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that I often, sort of talk about with, some of my friends is like the low moments kind of hit you in weird times. It's not like usually cataclysmic events that say like, oh, they're going to knock you on your butt.
Yeah.
You're going to hit a moment when you just can't do a small thing, or a small thing sort of defeats you in a way. And it's going to be a normal part of your life that you normally see as innocuous. And those are the moments that are crushing. So for me, like being like visually impaired, those crushing moments are like, oh, like I'm at a concert and my friends are freaking out over something they can see, and it's like you don't get to share that experience.
Ugh.
That's a small thing, and you can kind of breeze through it and try to enjoy the moment for what it is. But there's those little tiny moments where you're like, oh no, I can't experience the joy that they are, right? So I think that the crushing moments are sprinkled throughout your life, but it's how you tackle those and approach it that really matters.
Yeah. What's life like for you right now? I mean,
honestly, I think it's the best that it's ever been. One of the things with this, condition, they always told you like don't exercise, don't work out, because the muscle breakdown is too severe. It's super like lethal to your body, especially with the new discovery of like a neurochemical that when the muscle breakdown happens, that can impact the brain. They're like, yeah, we're just really worried about that. But I decided to sort of take it upon myself to sort of challenge that idea and see if there's a happy medium of exercise. And I'll sort of tell you a story. So one of the things with this condition is we found out that inevitably when you start puberty, you will undergo severe muscle breakdown and neuropathy to the point where you won't be able to like move your arms and legs. So people with this condition, usually around age 12 to 14, will end up in a wheelchair or crutches because they can't like move their body as well. And they thought that was like a death nail, right? Like this is it, this is the decline. Well, mostly because people weren't living past 16. But what we found is right as puberty is ending, so right in that 21 to 22 range, there is the possibility for return. So when I was at that age, I was just committing myself to exercise and trying to see like, is there a way to beat this? Maybe we can just work our way and grit through it. And I thought that was the answer, and so did the specialists. They were like, well, this guy really pushed himself and he was able to break through it, and he's walking again and really functional. Maybe his eyes don't work, but he's at least walking around. And they actually tested that with a couple of other patients in that same age range. And the patients that worked out heavily were able to get out of the wheelchair. However, they also had patients that did no activity, and they also got their mobility back. And it was overnight. It was this fascinating thing that where the body just kicked itself back in gear and said, we're gonna go. So we found out there's just some natural progression to degrading the body, and then all of a sudden it fights back and kind of builds itself back up. As long as there's that small will to just try to move, it'll get there.
Sounds like kind of a trust fall in a sense.
It is, yeah.
So, don't know if this is going to work, but let's do it.
Yeah. And today you talk about like how I feel like now. I think I might be in the best condition I've ever been, and I think that the moderation of exercise is the ticket. Even though it's really painful to exercise, it hurts. And people ask what it feels like. Think about taking your muscles and twisting it like a rubber band and then pulling the rubber band. That's how it feels in every muscle of your body and in all the joints. Which might be hard for some people to conceptualize, but that's like the main description that most FAOD people will describe it as.
Do you? Okay, I've got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So to combat that, you taking lots of different types of fatty acids and things to help.
Yeah. So the fatty acids are necessary for life, but they're bad for me. So the main way is like you hydrate, you do high sugar, and then the pain side is mostly like, well, let's do some ibuprofen while we can, and then when it's really severe, you usually have to do other pain management. So sugar.
Yeah,
which is awesome. Lots of candy.
So I'm a car head, right? So for me, it kind of sounds like just instead of running normal gasoline like everybody else would, you're running nitro.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything that's the fast fuel, anything that's like a slow acting fuel, like
doesn't work.
The proteins and and fats, those are harder to do. And we've done tons of studies about whether protein, like high protein's the way, high sugar's the way, high carbohydrates the way. And there's tons of research delved into it, and most of it is with me.
From you, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that little smile you have there.
Yeah, they're really fun. Well, when you kind of get into like what research means, it means like you're going up to a study where you're getting to talk to the most brilliant people in the world, and they give you shakes filled with chalk, and you get to drink it and do exercise, and you get to meet some pretty cool people while you're running on a treadmill. It's some of the best experiences of my life.
You know, there's no doubt about that, especially when you get to sit down with someone that's oh so smart, you know, and doing the things that they do. You know, it's mine's nothing compared to yours, so please, you know, take it with a grain of salt.
I think I want to hear your story, but for sure, like, I think everything is by perspective. Your challenges are your own, and I think they're just as like impactful as anyone else's. So like, I sometimes challenge people when they're like, well, my life's not as difficult as yours in your situation, but it's yours, so that it actually does make it as impactful, and it should be, you know, your experience should be taken away. I
appreciate that. I really do, and I think that it's the same, because when you do get to, I mean, I meet so many people just doing what I do, and you see that they've gone through things you wouldn't even know about. You know what I mean? And you're right. Our experience is what they are. For me, especially on that level, I'm 45 years old, coming back to school, and the thing I've had to learn is I can't look at people around here because they're so young. And they're going through something that's so insignificant, but they don't realize that this is nothing. Wait until you really hit something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're really going to feel some ouch.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. So your experience is all you know, and especially if it's the first one that you know. So
yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
So you know, I've been through lots of depression, losing my wife, and all that sort of stuff, and I felt the need to go and explore ketamine. You know, I have a therapist. I have a really good doctor that's helping me, and that's Dr. Luke Swank, by the way. He's out at Enoch, and he's doing great things for people that are going through through depression and through hard things in life. He like everybody around us right now. If it's just for the whole world to know, is everybody's gouging through the wazoo to be even looking at ketamine. Usually, it's about $600 to $1,200 to get set up. You know, and this guy out there is a co-pay, and off you go. You know what I mean? And go buy your medication, and everything's great. I appreciate that, because it's brought it down to a point where I can actually go do it. And I look at the people that are around, and I get it. They're just trying to build a business around it. But my goodness, do you have to gouge as deep as you do? You know?
Well, yeah. Well, I feel the same way with like most people who need the help, and it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what people have to pay for insulin. It's crazy.
Yeah. So anyone out there, go see Dr. Luke Swank. That guy, he will look after you. Tell him that Aussie Rob sent you, and you're gonna. It's just such a great experience. I've never been able to. I have a whole 53-foot container full of mine and my wife's stuff that I have not been able to get into since my wife passed away in 2020. We actually put it in storage in 2019 before we moved out of our place and moved down to live with her parents while she's going through the last of her life. That's been hard. Every time I've gone in there, like I open the door and the smells hit me. I can still smell my wife.
Yeah.
You know, I would open a box and just lose it. Like I couldn't even process it.
See, and for me, is like for someone who hasn't experienced that with like my own partner, to me that's astounding. It's just the impact of that experience would be so challenging, and the fact that you yourself are so positive and going on with your life and living like for yourself and your kids and progressing yourself. To me, that's astounding. That's an incredible achievement.
Well, my wife was a remarkable woman. You know, I have to say, and I hope I don't, like, I love God, okay? We pray every night, me and my boys. But I say to people when they ask about my wife and my situation, I literally say, she's my personal Jesus. Mm-hmm. She went through the suffering that she went through and lost her life has shaped me into the person I am becoming now. You know what I mean? So I was corporate America. I was traveling all the time. My life actually really... It wasn't fun. Like, it was fun on only a couple of scales, and a lot of my other cups were empty. You know what I mean? So to be force fed into now you're a permanent dad, mum. I think the first few months of me cooking food for the boys, I would start at 7 a.m. and finish at like 11. You know what I mean? Like for breakfast. And then I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I was not
stumble your way through it.
Yeah, and I was depressed too. So sometimes I just stare at a wall, and my kids would be like, "Dad, can we have that waffle now?" And oh yeah.
Like, you're like, it's burnt now, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's I went through that, and I'm super thankful for her, and the life that we had lived together was pretty amazing, and to come out of that now and to see my little boys grow, and they're growing, guys, they're growing so much. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I always talk about it. They go to jiu-jitsu, it helps them align their brain. And from jiu-jitsu they do piano, and from piano they do ninja class, and they just started learning their first flips. Now they're starting to land flips, man, and I'm so impressed with what they're doing.
That's awesome.
But to bring it back to ketamine, what it's done for me so far, and I tell you, I'm not going to talk too much about the journey itself, because I don't, it's as rewarding as it is. You usually get the rewards after you do the journey, and it's an hallucinogenic. You'll see some stuff, you'll feel some emotions, but it's just like fast forwarding therapy like 1,000-fold. I've been so I started in, I think it was November, and I'm building. We're gonna talk more about this as my show develops and as I develop through it. But I have taken that. Approach, and I did one of the journeys I did was over Christmas time. I was really I get real prayerful. I don't eat food. I and when I go into it, and I had this one journey where I just prayed to my wife about what I need to do. I've got a storage shed I'm almost $10,000 worth of debt into that thing. I mean, it's cost me that much money to keep it stored, and I can't do it anymore. Like I just don't have the funds. You know what I mean?
It's overwhelming. Yeah,
it's a luxury that I can't afford to have. And it's been overwhelming all the way through it. So anyway, I turned around, and before I said a prayer before I did it. I was like, please give me some insight on what I should do right now, because I have the money to pay for it, but then I can't do things I need to fix around my house. And I had a water heater went out of me, a normal heater itself for we live in an RV, it broke down. Probably the best blessing I ever had, because I've saved money since I put an electric heater in there, like a mini split. Anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
But I had this journey, and it felt like my wife was there, and she just said, it's time to bring my stuff home. And it just hit me so hard, and I thought, okay, I'll try. And I made some space, and I have enough room, kinda.
Yeah.
And I was able to unpack half of that. I mean, my halfway through right now. And
that's huge.
It's massive. I've never been able to do it.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm revisiting old friends.
Yeah.
But I've never been able to do that. And I think that's huge.
I think one thing that's really interesting, because when you talk about experiences like that with other people, I think that by sharing and showing that like vulnerability, you're actually like opening yourself to really like connect with the people around you.
Yeah.
So which is really difficult, but I think it's also really good, because you're also trusting that person, and you're actually benefiting from them. I think there's a lot of fear from people being like, oh, I don't want to like trauma dump or overshare.
Oh no.
But like, I think that you really show other people trust, and they also can benefit from just hearing the experience.
Man, I appreciate that. I don't, I definitely, I'm out to build a show around inspiration.
Nice.
I want to inspire people, you know what I mean? And it just so happens that I've noticed that we're all going through something, and some worse than others, and things that go, they're hard times, and they're hard things to do. But if you don't know, you don't know. And that's kind of where I'm at with trying to shed light on these subjects.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. You should totally go for that, man.
Yeah, I am. We're here.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we're
YouTube.
here.
I appreciate YouTube. That's a game changer.
Yeah.
So your life now. Are you married? Are you?
Yep.
Tell me all about this.
Yeah. So I was married a little over a year ago. My wife Jess, she's amazing. She definitely changed my life when she came into it. The funny thing is, we actually met in therapy. It's one of those like super weird situations where like you're in group therapy together, and then like turns into a relationship, and we got married a couple years later, and she's amazing. She's actually a therapist at Utah Behavioral Services.
Wow.
Yeah, so she's also sort of dedicated her life into like serving others and serving like people who have like disabilities.
Oh.
So she's a really astounding person.
Maybe we should bring her on the show someday.
Oh yeah, she'd probably be the best participant you ever had. She's a blast to be around.
No, yeah, let's line it up. I'm down.
Yeah,
especially if I can help a cause, like
Yeah.
what you guys have gone through. I think it's remarkable. So it sounds like you've actually developed a relationship the right way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and talk about like starting a relationship just with everything on the table. You go into group therapy with somebody, it's like, well, those are all the skeletons. We know it all now. So it was starting like it was sort of like starting on the 30th date.
yeah, that's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate that. Man, most people are just so quick to get into something because they don't want to be alone. Sometimes loneliness is the best healer. Sometimes you got to understand what it's like to be lonely before you can actually like to be
yourself before you can learn to love someone else.
Yeah. Love yourself first. I mean, it's huge. I appreciate that, man.
Well, and so you were talking about like your sort of experience, like going through like the depression and just being able to like do a thing like move a suitcase into your home from storage. It really resonates with me because I think that a lot of times people sort of misunderstand like the mountain that the simple action like that can be, and actually carries down to being a student, right? So I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and basically I was trying to explain to them that sometimes just getting out of bed is your mountain, and someone who hasn't had to experience that before might misunderstand just what an achievement that can be some days, depending on what you're going through.
Yeah.
And those little successes should be, in my opinion, celebrated. Like, if you're going through something and your mountain, the thing that is your daily accomplishment was just to get breakfast, like, sometimes that's all you have. And I think it's really hard for people to wrap their head around that might be all you had for the day.
Yeah. That's, and I had to count on those small wins, man. There were times where, I mean, I'd always put a brave face on it and take the boys places, and we were lucky. My wife used to work for Disney, in Disneyland and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that sounds so cool.
It's so cool. We've been there so many times, it's ridiculous. But
That's my favorite. I love that place.
Yeah, we should go sometime.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I know that place inside and out. I had a one very particular person. Her name's Laurie. And a shout out to her because she's an amazing person. But she just reached out to me and she says, whenever you and the boys need to come, I've got tickets for you. And I don't
that's
care.
so cool.
You come as much as you want.
That's
and
awesome.
We were going 3 times a year. You know what
That's
I mean? Like,
sweet.
Yeah, we'd go down
That's my
there.
dream.
and spend like 3 to 4 days at a time. You know? Yeah.
That's awesome. I bet the boys love that.
Oh, it was phenomenal. Yeah, we've had they don't understand how lucky they've been with that. I said to them, man, I had to wait until I was in my 30s to experience this.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah. So no, it's they're fun times. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that like you sort of say to yourself as like you put on a brave face, right? Like adversity is best fought with a smile, right? And that's sort of my personal approach to everything is like any adversity, whatever the challenges in your life, I think the best approach is to smile on your face and show grit. You can push through, and also like it doesn't have to be alone.
Yep.
The people around you sincerely are good and want to help, and you actually help them and do a service to them by allowing them in.
Yeah.
So that's always been a philosophy of mine.
There's a flip side to that too, right? Like going through it, I was like, especially once I started sort of somewhat waking up to what I was doing, I would smile in front of the boys, then I'd put them to bed, then I'd lose it. You know, and then once I understood that this is a part of what I'm doing, and these little guys need to see how broken I am. So one day we sat down and we talked about it, and I broke down, and they're like, wow.
I bet they understood better than you thought.
They understand it way better than I ever do. I think they still understand it better than I do. But seeing especially my little guy, because he looks at me as if I'm swinging axes all day long. You know what I mean? Like he just sees me as this big lumberjack dude that just gets stuff done, and I do. I get stuff done.
Unbeatable, right?
Yeah. And he saw me so broken. He's like, "Why are you crying?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Because I miss your mum." You know.
And that's real. And,
Yeah.
And I think it's really good that you show them that.
Yeah. And the thing that gets me the most is that they will never have the chance to know her.
Yeah, that's devastating.
Especially
if she's such an astounding woman. It's so unfortunate that they didn't get to really know her.
Yeah. She had. Oh man, I kind of feel like she could have done anything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Her major inspirations were like Tim Burton and people like that. So extremely visual.
Yeah.
And she was right into steampunk, and she had a master's degree in set design and costume design.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so she was dialed in. She was so dialed in.
That's cool.
Yeah, when we lived in LA, I would go build stuff to make money so I could go act. That's amazing. Yeah, well, it was fun because I worked on sets, and I also would work for myself. So we had our own company, and we're struggling all the way, which is fine. I think it just the anvil of life teaches you how to be strong.
Oh, when you love what you're doing too.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. I met some awesome people down there, but I would go do a design, and then I would have her look over it, or I would have her come to the place that I'm just about to build. And she would fine-tune things and tell me the reasons why, and the reason why you need that trim because it accents this over here, and the pediment, blah, 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 blah.
Just that genius vibe.
She was phenomenal, man. And she would just roll, She was so good at it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I miss that.
Yeah.
We were a great team.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about those experiences someday.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like you guys have some really cool stuff you do.
That's it. Yeah. I have over almost 5,000 videos of just us,
That's sweet.
And that's part of the reason why I'm here is because I want to put them together. Yeah. I want to build a movie for the boys to be able to sit down and go, what's Mum like there?
Yeah.
What does she do about that? And so there's a lot of our friends that we were friends when I was with Annie. Mm-hmm. Once she passed away, though, I lost a lot of them, you know what I mean? Because they were all loyal to who she was, and a lot of people think that I'm a less than person, and that's okay. People don't know me, and most times I'm pretty quiet, but I can get obnoxious with my own opinions throughout the years, and I'm not proud of it, but that's who I was. And even she would say, I don't understand how people don't see you for who you are.
Yeah, like she saw the real you.
Yeah, she saw everything about me. You know what I mean? And I think that was a great scenario for us.
Yeah.
But now I've learned to deal with that, and this is me, Rob, I don't know, 5.0 now. I don't know. Yeah. trying to make sense of the world and trying to open up a side to me that people don't get to see.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, it's hard, and I think that's also hard for a lot of people to reach a place where they can be sort of unapologetically themselves.
Yeah.
Right? It's really hard to reach a place like that because it takes a lot of vulnerability and acceptance for who you are, and be able to put that out into the world.
Yeah,
not
so
for
true.
Expectations of others and stuff.
Our time has just about come up. I can't believe it just went that quick.
Yeah.
Do we touch on it? Is there everything we got about to talk about?
So if there was a desire to kind of dial into somewhat more living with a disability is like, we could totally do that sometime if you feel like that would be beneficial for your listeners, because I think that beyond the specifics of what the conditions of this or anyone else's conditions are, I think that what it's like to sort of exist in the world that's not really designed for those who have disabilities or any really condition is really hard, and I think it's really good for people to hear about real experiences, what it's like to actually do day-to-day real life things, and how does that affect you emotionally, and how you prepare for your life.
Yeah. All right, well, let's do that. Let's bring it back and let's talk about that, because I kind of feel like I shouldn't have said anything. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. I think this was an awesome topic and an awesome discussion.
Yeah.
So we should totally do this again.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to help a lot of people. Like I said, if you're going through some stuff, you live in town here and you just don't have the means to be able to spend $1,000 on working out what ketamine can do for you and how it can help PTSD and all those scenarios, Dr. Luke Swank, he's out at Enoch. Tell him that Rob Birdsey sent you, and he'll. I mean, the guy is phenomenal. His heart's in the right place. He's not gouging people, man. I tell you, my copay was $4. $4, and everyone out there is like, you're $1,200 or $600 to start, and you don't need to. If you get creative, you can do it on the cheap. That's for sure. No, I should say economical. There you go. Mm-hmm. One last question for you. what makes the difference?
What makes a difference?
And it could be with anything.
It's a deep question. I think that really what makes the difference is how much work are you willing to put in?
Yeah.
Really, that makes a difference. Also, just your capacity for showing compassion for others. Those are probably the two things that make the biggest difference.
Absolutely. I agree. Compassion is huge. But yeah, and what are you willing to sacrifice to make it work?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, addictions are something that will rob you of that. So
Yep.
that's another thing you got to delve into. But no, I really appreciate that. You know,
Yeah.
if you've made it this far in this show, thank you so much. Please
Yeah,
like,
thank
share,
you
and
for listening
subscribe.
to
I would
this, yeah.
appreciate that. Thomas, I can't thank you enough, man, for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was a great time, and
Yeah.
I can't wait for the next time.
Yeah, SUU people out there, if you need help, the DRC is just down the road there, up the top to the right hand side. You can't miss it. It's just near Chick-fil-A. If you need any help, or if you need any help with technology, my goodness, Thomas is better than half the guys over that other building over there. I won't tell them the names.
Well, thanks, man. And definitely one thing I would say is if you are looking for help, especially here just at SEU, even if you think that we won't cover the needs that you have, we probably do. It's much more of a broad area of support than you would think.
Yeah. I mean, even me with my torn bicep, you guys have sorted that out, and I have an operation coming up for that too. So
That's gonna be so rough. Good luck going through that, man.
6 months, they say it takes 6 months to heal.
That's gonna be a rough one.
Yeah.
You can totally do it though.
Oh yeah, I mean I've got the right outlook.
Yeah.
I'm in a good situation right now. The boys are just super helping me.
That's
They're
awesome.
like, Dad's hurt, let's help him, and
Yeah.
they're into it. We're cooking dinner together. It's kind
That's
of fun.
gonna be so cool.
It is.
experiences.
Yeah, they're genuinely amazing kids.
They
I got to
sound
bring them in to
Yeah.
meet you. Yeah.
Gotta meet him sometime.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Thomas. You have a great day, and if anyone needs any help, go search it out, man. The DRC Disability Research Center resource. Go up there and see them. They're gonna help you out a bunch. We're gonna go to I'm Shipping Up. Thank you, YouTube. We should be good for that now, and I'll cancel that out. Man, Thomas, that was amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was an awesome talk.